Stop what you're doing for a second. I need to tell you about a place where money wasn't just power, it was the only thing that mattered. It was a school called Ridgewood Academy. Honestly, it was more like a castle, built by the super-rich. Picture this: custom-made uniforms, kids talking about private jets, and showing off watches that cost more than your house. In that world, if your last name wasn't famous, you didn't exist. And right in the middle of it all was Maria, the school janitor, and her daughter, Emily. Maria was a quiet lady, always respectful, always in the shadows, arriving before anyone else. And Emily, she was 12 years old. She spent her afternoons there because her mom couldn't afford childcare. To those rich kids, Emily was just part of the furniture, an invisible shadow, doing homework in empty rooms. Her status was crystal clear: she was the janitor's girl. They saw the mop, but they never saw the person. She found comfort in the quiet, dusty parts of the school, but her real focus was always the music room. It was like a magnet. Every single day, Emily would stare at one thing inside that room: a beautiful, perfect classical guitar, locked away behind glass. It was untouched, pristine. She didn't look at it because she wanted one. She looked at it with a secret, a huge secret she kept hidden at home, a secret that was about to blow the walls of Ridgewood Academy wide open. That perfect guitar behind the glass? It wasn't just a dream for Emily, it was a wound. You see, the music wasn't new to her. It was the only thing left of her father, a truly passionate guitarist. When he died, her mother had to sell everything, but she kept one broken, old guitar. And that was Emily's real school. Every night, she had a secret ritual. She practiced on that damaged instrument, sometimes with strings missing, until her fingers weren't just sore, they were blistered. Pure dedication. Nobody in that fancy academy knew the quiet girls sweeping their floors carried that kind of fire. One afternoon, we cut back to the music room. The teacher, Mr. Daniels, was totally fed up. His class of rich kids couldn't play a basic chord, treating the instrument like garbage. He looked at them, shook his head, and made a tired, weary joke. He chuckled and said, "Looks like none of you have the talent for this." And then, his eyes fell right on Emily, sweeping in the back. His voice turned cruel. He called out, laughing, "Hey, you! The janitor's girl! Why don't you give it a shot?" The laughter that exploded in that room was instant, ugly, and it was meant to crush her. That laughter, it wasn't just noise, it was a slap in the face. It was the rich kids announcing, "You do not belong here." For Emily, it would have been easy to freeze, to run away, to cry. But that quiet, burning pride inside her finally screamed, "No, not today." She swallowed her fear and walked forward. Slowly. Mr. Daniels was completely shocked she even moved. He laughed, a smug little chuckle, and handed her the perfect, pristine guitar. He challenged her, "Go on, janitor's girl. Show us what you've got." He was waiting for her to fail, hoping for it. Emily sat down on the stool. She took one deep, long breath, like she was pushing the entire world outside that room. Then, her blistered, scarred fingers, the ones forged in secret on a broken instrument, found their exact place on the fretboard. She didn't hesitate. She didn't fumble. She began to strum the chords of Eric Clapton's "Tears in Heaven." The whole room went dead silent, expecting the train wreck. But the very first notes that came out were not weak. They were clear, crisp, and so soulful, they felt like they punched you right in the chest. Instantly, the sound of laughter was killed. Every single face, every student, every mocker, froze in complete disbelief. Then came her voice. Soft, yes, but hauntingly powerful. She wasn't singing a song, she was pouring out her soul, her grief, her entire secret life story. Mr. Daniels' hand, holding the music sheet, slowly dropped to his side. And when she played that final beautiful lingering chord, the whole class of privileged mockers was frozen solid, just as quickly as they had laughed. That silence, it wasn't empty, it was heavy. It was the sound of money and status losing a fight to pure talent. That was Emily's real victory moment. Nobody moved. That silence was so deep, you could hear your own heartbeat. Mr. Daniels, the teacher, looked like he'd seen a ghost. He struggled to clear his throat. He asked her, his voice barely there, "Where did you learn to play like that?" Emily just gave a quiet, simple smile. Her answer was brutal in its simplicity. My dad taught me before he passed. That stopped all conversation. The shame on the students' faces? It was immediate. Then, a slow, single clap started, one of the rich kids. Then, another. And then the entire class exploded into a thunderous, echoing applause. Just like that, the janitor's daughter wasn't invisible anymore. She was the star of the show. The applause was still ringing when she handed the guitar back to Mr. Daniels. His smirk was completely gone, only respect remained. He looked at her, truly seeing her for the first time. "Emily," he stammered, "how long exactly have you been playing?" Her answer was the perfect finish. "Since I was 6. My dad taught me." Music was always in the house. That 6 years of secret practice. It was now demanding a massive public change. The teacher, Mr. Daniels, didn't even hesitate. He looked at Emily, dropped all the jokes, and made the biggest offer she'd ever heard. "Emily, you have to join our music club." Emily was totally overwhelmed. She could only stammer one thing. "But sir, I just help my mom clean. I'm not a student here." Mr. Daniels cut her off. "I don't care. Talent like yours cannot be hidden. I will talk to the principal. We are making an exception for you." This was already too much to handle, and that's when the real twist walked in. Maria, Emily's mother, entered the room, confused by the massive applause. Mr. Daniels immediately turned to her, losing all his arrogance. He spoke with total respect. "Ma'am, your daughter is a genius. I need her to perform in our big winter showcase." Maria was completely shocked. For years, she had taught Emily one rule: be invisible, be safe. Performance meant massive attention. It meant huge risk. She looked from the wealthy teacher to her hopeful daughter. The whole room held its breath, waiting for the janitor's decision. Finally, Maria took a deep, trembling breath and slowly gave her permission. If Emily truly wants this, then yes. That single yes from Maria? That was the trigger. That was the moment Emily's mother gave her permission to live her dream, no matter the risk. And from that day, Ridgewood Academy was completely changed. The next 3 weeks felt like a movie. Emily, the girl who used to sweep, was now given full access to the best, most expensive instruments you can imagine. Mr. Daniels, the teacher, became her personal coach. He completely ignored his normal classes. His only priority was Emily's raw genius. The word spread instantly. The same rich students who had laughed at her? They were now standing quietly outside the music room, watching her practice with total respect. The invisible barrier between the high society and the help? It was finally breaking down. This wasn't just practice, it was a full emotional rebuild. Emily was preparing to step into the world her father loved, but on the biggest, most critical stage possible. And then came the night of the winter showcase. The elite were all there: parents, donors, board members, all dressed up. They glanced at the program, but barely noticed the name Emily. She was just a last-minute addition. But soon, very soon, they would never forget that name. She walked onto the stage, beneath the blinding spotlight, holding her father's old guitar, now perfectly repaired, ready to silence the entire room. The stage. This was it. The moment of truth. Every wealthy, judgmental person in that room was watching the girl who used to sweep their floors. This was her single, defining minute. Emily walked out. Simple dress, but in her hands was her father's old guitar, now perfect, now shining. She started playing, and she was flawless. She didn't hold back. She played with the grace of a professional, moving through complex rhythms that demanded total focus. The audience murmurs, "Gone." They were glued to her. Then came the final song. This wasn't someone else's music. This was an original composition, her own, raw, musical letter to her dad. It told her whole life story without a single word. You could see the rich, bored parents in the front row sitting bolt upright, completely captivated. And when she played that final, beautiful, lingering chord, there was no applause. Nothing. Only a silence so thick, so heavy with pure awe, you could feel it pressing down on you. That silence was the sound of prejudice being utterly defeated. That silence, it wasn't just quiet, it was the sound of the entire class structure breaking apart. It was proof that pure talent had completely defeated money and prejudice. That silence was Emily's loudest statement. Then, the sound finally came, a thunderous, roaring standing ovation. It wasn't polite clapping, it was raw, genuine admiration. Backstage, the school principal, the most powerful person there, approached Maria. The principal had tears in her eyes. Her words were the ultimate victory. She looked at Maria and said, "We would like to offer Emily a full scholarship here. Her talent absolutely deserves to be nurtured." Maria's hands started trembling. She could barely whisper, You would actually do that?" The principal just smiled and nodded, "Absolutely. Starting next semester." Emily instantly burst into tears, hugging her mother tightly. The janitor's daughter became a scholar, but the true win was bigger than one girl. A lasting change had already begun to take root in that academy. The scholarship was a massive prize, but listen, the real victory was what happened to the academy itself. The spotlight on Emily didn't just show her talent, it exposed the blind prejudice running through every single hallway. Emily's story went viral immediately. It was everywhere: news, social media. People were truly moved by the girl who broke through judgment with pure music. And at Ridgewood Academy, the change was real. Students and staff finally started looking past the expensive uniforms and the famous family names. They learned the most vital lesson: dedication, heart, and brilliance don't belong only to the wealthy. It can, and often does, come from the quietest, most forgotten person in the room. So, the next time you decide who's important based on their job or their clothes, remember Emily. Remember the silent, powerful moment of that one chord, played by blistered fingers. Sometimes, the quietest person is the one who's about to change the entire song.